In the heart of Shanghai, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and neon lights painted the streets at night, there lived a young martial artist named Wei Liang. Wei wasn't just any fighter. He was bold, talented, and fiercely ambitious. From the moment he stepped into his first dojo as a child, it was clear that Wei had something special. His kicks were lightning fast, his punches precise, and his reflexes unmatched. Over time, his reputation grew, not only for his skill but also for his fiery personality. We loved to talk, a lot, and he never hesitated to share his opinions about anything or anyone. Wei's rise in the world of combat sports was meteoric. By his early 20s, he had already won several regional championships and gained thousands of fans who admired his style and charisma. But with success came arrogance. Wei believed he was destined to be the greatest fighter in history, and he wasn't shy about saying so. During interviews, he often boasted about how modern fighters, like him, were superior to the legends of the past. "Those old-school guys are dinosaurs," he once said during a podcast. "They don't stand a chance against today's athletes." His words made headlines, sparking debates among fans and critics alike. One evening, after finishing a grueling training session, Wei decided to unwind by scrolling through social media. As he flicked through videos, one clip caught his eye. A grainy video of a man in a white karate gi performing kata, a series of choreographed movements used in traditional martial arts. The caption read, "Chuck Norris, 6-time karate world champion." Wei squinted at the screen, trying to make sense of what he saw. The man moved slowly, deliberately, almost like he was stuck in another era. To Wei, it looked outdated, like watching someone use a flip phone in the age of smartphones. "What is this?" Wei muttered under his breath, shaking his head. He leaned back in his chair, laughing at the absurdity of it all. "This guy thinks he's tough? Look at him. He's ancient." Without thinking twice, Wei grabbed his phone and started recording a live stream. Within minutes, hundreds of his followers joined in, eager to hear what their favorite fighter had to say. "All right, listen up," Wei began, pointing at the screen behind him. "You see this guy right here? Chuck Norris. Yeah, I know, you've probably seen him in some cheesy action movie from the 80s. Well, apparently people think he's some kind of martial arts god because he won 6 karate championships back in the day. 6, can you believe that?" He paused dramatically, letting his audience absorb his sarcasm. "Look at him move, it's like watching paint dry. If I ever fought this guy, I'd knock him out before he even realized what hit him." His viewers erupted in laughter, cheering him on as he continued mocking Norris. "I mean, seriously, look at those moves. They're slower than my grandma crossing the street. Maybe back then being able to kick someone without falling over was impressive, but now? Please, this isn't even real fighting. It's more like dancing for grandpas." As the live stream went on, Wei's confidence soared. He imagined himself stepping into a ring with Norris, effortlessly dodging his slow attacks and delivering a devastating knockout punch. The thought of facing such a legendary figure thrilled him, not because he respected Norris, but because he relished the idea of crushing a so-called icon. Little did Wei know, however, that his words would travel far beyond the confines of his cozy apartment in Shanghai. Unbeknownst to Wei, his remarks didn't just entertain his online followers. They reached corners of the internet he couldn't have predicted. Fans of Chuck Norris, many of whom were lifelong martial artists themselves, took notice. Some found Wei's comments hilarious, while others felt offended on behalf of their hero. Clips of Wei's rant began circulating on forums dedicated to martial arts history, with users debating whether Norris could still hold his own against younger opponents. Meanwhile, across the globe in Texas, Chuck Norris sat comfortably in his ranch house, sipping coffee and browsing the web. Now in his late 70s, Norris had long since retired from competitive fighting, opting instead for a quieter life, filled with family, philanthropy, and occasional acting gigs. Despite his retirement, Norris remained deeply connected to the martial arts community, often mentoring young fighters and participating in charity events. He had heard whispers of his name popping up online but paid little attention, until one of his close friends forwarded him a link to Wei's infamous live stream. At first, Norris chuckled at the video. He appreciated the humor in Wei's exaggerated claims and recognized the playful nature of the challenge. But as he watched further, something inside him stirred. Norris had spent decades honing his craft, not just to win trophies but to embody the principles of discipline, respect, and humility that martial arts represented. Seeing a young fighter dismiss those values so casually bothered him more than he expected. Norris leaned back in his chair, stroking his beard as he reflected on the situation. On one hand, he could ignore Wei's comments and let the matter rest. After all, he was no stranger to criticism, having faced skeptics throughout his career. On the other hand, Norris felt a responsibility to respond, not out of anger or ego, but to remind people of what truly mattered in martial arts. Perhaps, he thought, this could be an opportunity to bridge generations and teach a valuable lesson. With a wry smile, Norris picked up his phone and dialed a trusted contact in the martial arts world. Together they devised a plan. Norris would issue a friendly challenge to Wei, an invitation to meet in a controlled exhibition match. There would be no prize money, no title on the line, just two fighters testing their skills and sharing their knowledge. Norris knew the proposal might seem unusual, especially given the age gap between them, but he believed it could inspire others to appreciate the depth and tradition of martial arts. By the next morning, news of Norris's challenge had spread, like wildfire. Social media platforms buzzed with excitement as fans speculated about the potential matchup. Some praised Norris for taking the high road, while others questioned whether he was biting off more than he could chew. Regardless of the opinions swirling around, one thing was certain. Wei Liang's casual mockery had ignited a chain reaction that neither he nor Norris could have foreseen. What started as a lighthearted joke was quickly evolving into something much bigger, a clash of styles, philosophies, and generations that would capture the world's attention. When Chuck Norris decided to challenge Wei Liang, it wasn't done out of anger or a desire for revenge. Instead, it came from a place of wisdom and responsibility. Norris had always believed that martial arts were more than just punches and kicks. They were about respect, discipline, and growth. Wei's dismissive attitude toward him, and by extension, the traditions Norris had spent his life upholding, felt like a missed opportunity for the younger fighter to learn something valuable. So with calm determination, Norris crafted a message that would ripple across continents. Through mutual connections in the martial arts community, Norris sent his challenge to Wei. The proposal was simple: an exhibition match, held under controlled conditions where both fighters could demonstrate their skills without risking serious injury. It wouldn't be a professional competition with judges or titles on the line. It was meant to be a friendly exchange of knowledge between two fighters from different generations. Norris made it clear that his goal wasn't to embarrass Wei, but to remind everyone what martial arts truly stood for. At first, Wei dismissed the idea entirely. "This has to be a joke," he told his trainer when the invitation reached him. "Chuck Norris is like 80 years old. What does he think he's going to do? Teach me how to meditate?" Wei laughed it off, assuming Norris was just trying to stay relevant by piggybacking on his fame. But as hours turned into days, the pressure began mounting. Sponsors who had previously backed Wei started calling, curious about whether he'd accept the challenge. Social media buzzed with debates, memes, and endless speculation about what might happen if the two actually faced off. Wei's fans were divided. Some encouraged him to take the fight, believing his speed and power would easily overpower Norris. Others warned him not to underestimate the legend, reminding him of Norris's 6-time world championship title and decades of experience. Even Wei's own family weighed in, urging him to consider the bigger picture. His older brother, who had introduced him to martial arts as a child, reminded him of Norris's contributions to the sport. "You can make fun of him all you want," his brother said during a phone call, "but don't forget where modern karate came from." As the noise grew louder, Wei found himself cornered. Refusing the challenge outright would look cowardly, especially since he had been so vocal about mocking Norris in the first place. Accepting it, however, felt like walking into a trap. How could he possibly win against someone whose reputation preceded him? And yet, deep down, Wei couldn't shake the thrill of the idea. Imagining himself stepping into a ring with a living legend filled him with a mix of excitement and dread. Maybe this was his chance to prove once and for all that he belonged among the greats. Reluctantly, Wei agreed to the match, though he tried to downplay its significance. In interviews leading up to the event, he doubled down on his earlier comments, insisting that Norris's age would make him an easy opponent. "I've seen videos of him," Wei said during a press conference. "He moves like molasses. I'll finish this in less than 5 minutes." His cocky remarks only fueled the hype, drawing even more attention to the upcoming showdown. Meanwhile, Norris prepared quietly and methodically. Unlike Wei, who thrived on drama and spectacle, Norris approached the challenge with humility and focus. He knew better than anyone that physical strength alone didn't determine victory in a fight. It was mental fortitude, timing, and strategy that mattered most. Norris spent hours each day practicing basic techniques, refining his movements until they were as sharp as ever. He also incorporated meditation into his routine, using it to center himself and maintain clarity of mind. For Norris, this wasn't just about proving a point. It was about honoring the art form he loved. While Wei trained with intensity, pushing his body to its limits, Norris emphasized balance. He understood that at his age, brute force wouldn't carry him through the match. Instead, he relied on precision and efficiency, ensuring every movement served a purpose. Friends and colleagues occasionally expressed concern, reminding Norris that he didn't need to put himself in harm's way. But Norris brushed off their worries, explaining that sometimes teaching required action rather than words. As the date of the exhibition drew closer, anticipation reached fever pitch. Promotional materials flooded social media, featuring dramatic images of Norris and Wei side by side. Posters depicted them as symbols of opposing philosophies: young versus old, flashy versus grounded, arrogance versus humility. Fans around the world eagerly debated who would come out on top. Would Wei's raw athleticism overwhelm Norris's refined technique? Or would Norris's decades of experience leave Wei struggling to keep up? The media played a significant role in building the hype, framing the match as a clash of cultures and generations. Journalists dug into Norris's storied career, highlighting his achievements as both a martial artist and cultural icon. They interviewed former students, friends, and rivals, painting a picture of a man who had dedicated his life to excellence. At the same time, profiles of Wei showcased his meteoric rise in the combat sports scene, emphasizing his confidence and charisma. Together, these narratives created a sense of inevitability. Their paths were destined to cross. For Wei, the weeks leading up to the match were a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, he relished the spotlight, basking in the attention that came with facing a global icon. On the other hand, doubts crept in whenever he thought about standing across from Norris in the ring. Late at night, when the cameras weren't rolling and the crowds weren't cheering, Wei allowed himself to wonder, what if Norris was more skilled than he appeared? What if his own bravado had blinded him to the truth? Despite these fleeting moments of uncertainty, Wei refused to let fear dictate his actions. He convinced himself that his youth and energy would be enough to carry him through. After all, hadn't he defeated countless opponents who doubted him before? Why should this be any different? Norris, meanwhile, remained unfazed by the growing frenzy surrounding the event. He trusted in his preparation and in the lessons he had learned over a lifetime. To him, the outcome of the match mattered less than the message it conveyed. If Wei walked away with a newfound appreciation for martial arts' deeper meaning, then Norris considered it a victory, regardless of the score. By the time the day of the exhibition arrived, millions of people worldwide were tuned in, eager to witness history unfold. Few realized that the true battle had already begun, not in the ring but in the minds of the two fighters. Wei clung to his belief in superiority, while Norris embraced the opportunity to inspire. As they prepared to face each other, neither fully understood how profoundly the encounter would change them both. The weeks leading up to the exhibition match were a whirlwind for both Wei Liang and Chuck Norris, but their approaches to preparation couldn't have been more different. Wei threw himself into intense training sessions, determined to prove that his speed and power could overwhelm even a legend like Norris. Every day he pushed his body to its limits, running sprints, practicing high kicks, and sparring with partners who mimicked Norris's style as best they could. His trainers encouraged him to focus on explosiveness, believing it would be his greatest advantage against an older opponent. Wei's mindset was simple: outpace Norris before the fight even began. He envisioned overwhelming Norris with relentless attacks, leaving no room for counterattacks. To prepare, he studied old footage of Norris's fights, analyzing every move and predicting how he might react in the ring. But despite his confidence, there was an undercurrent of unease. Late at night, when the gym lights dimmed and the adrenaline faded, Wei would sometimes wonder if he'd underestimated Norris. "What if he's faster than he looks?" he muttered to himself one evening after watching a particularly impressive clip of Norris disarming an opponent with a single strike. These doubts gnawed at him, but he quickly brushed them aside, reminding himself that Norris was decades past his prime. On the other side of the world, Norris prepared with quiet discipline. Instead of grueling workouts or flashy techniques, Norris focused on fundamentals, the same principles he had practiced since his early days in martial arts. He spent hours perfecting basic stances, punches, and blocks, ensuring each movement was precise and efficient. For Norris, mastery wasn't about complexity. It was about simplicity executed flawlessly. He meditated daily, visualizing the match and reinforcing his mental clarity. Unlike Wei, who sought to dominate through sheer force, Norris aimed to conserve energy and rely on timing and strategy. Norris also enlisted the help of trusted friends and former students to simulate sparring scenarios. These sessions weren't about proving anything. They were about staying sharp and adapting to modern fighting styles. Norris knew Wei would bring raw athleticism and unpredictability into the ring, so he trained to anticipate those qualities. One of his closest mentors reminded him, "You don't need to win this fight, Chuck. You just need to remind everyone why you became a champion in the first place." Those words resonated deeply with Norris, reinforcing his belief that the match was less about physical victory and more about preserving the spirit of martial arts. As the days ticked down, media coverage reached a fever pitch. News outlets around the globe covered every detail, from Wei's rigorous training regimen to Norris's calm demeanor. Social media buzzed with predictions, memes, and heated debates. Some argued that Wei's youth and agility made him unbeatable, while others insisted Norris's experience and precision would prevail. Promotional videos highlighted the stark contrast between the two fighters: Wei's flashy combinations and aggressive posturing versus Norris's measured movements and unwavering composure. In the final days before the match, Wei grew increasingly restless. He felt the weight of expectations pressing down on him, not just from fans and sponsors, but from himself. Every interview, every social media comment seemed to amplify the stakes. "This is my moment," he told his team during a practice session. "I'm not just fighting Chuck Norris, I'm fighting history." Despite his bravado, Wei couldn't shake the feeling that something about Norris unsettled him. It wasn't fear exactly, but a nagging awareness that Norris represented something larger than Wei had initially understood. For Norris, the build-up to the match was quieter, but no less meaningful. He spent time reflecting on his journey, remembering the sacrifices and lessons that had shaped him into the man he was today. He thought about his own mentors, the countless hours he had spent honing his craft, and the values he had tried to instill in others throughout his career. This wasn't just another fight. It was an opportunity to pass the torch, to show younger generations what martial arts truly meant. As he stood on his ranch one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Norris felt a profound sense of peace. Whatever happened in the ring, he knew he had already won by staying true to himself. Finally, the day of the exhibition arrived. The event took place in a massive arena in Hong Kong, blending East and West in a celebration of martial arts culture. Thousands of spectators filled the seats, their excitement palpable as banners bearing images of Wei and Norris hung from the rafters. Cameras flashed, commentators spoke rapidly in multiple languages, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Outside, the venue, fans gathered in droves holding signs that read everything from "Go Wei" to "Respect the Legend." When Wei entered the arena, the crowd erupted into cheers. Dressed in sleek black shorts and gloves, he exuded confidence, strutting toward the ring with his signature swagger. He waved to the audience, soaking in their adoration, before climbing into the ring with a spring in his step. His energy was electric. His eyes locked onto Norris with a mix of determination and defiance. Moments later, Norris appeared, walking slowly but steadily toward the ring. Clad in a traditional white karate gi, he carried himself with quiet authority. There was no grand entrance, no dramatic gestures, just a man who had lived a lifetime of purpose. The crowd gave him a standing ovation, acknowledging not only his achievements but the respect he commanded. As Norris stepped into the ring, he bowed deeply to Wei, then to the audience, embodying the humility that defined his approach to martial arts. The contrast between the two fighters was striking. Wei radiated youthful arrogance, bouncing on the balls of his feet and shadowboxing to warm up. Norris, meanwhile, moved deliberately, taking slow, measured breaths as he stretched his muscles. When the referee called them to the center of the ring for instructions, Wei stared at Norris with a smirk, clearly eager to get started. Norris returned his gaze calmly, offering a slight nod that conveyed both respect and readiness. Before the match began, the referee reminded both fighters that the exhibition was meant to showcase skill and sportsmanship, not aggression. "No cheap shots, no unnecessary force," he said firmly. Both men agreed, though Wei seemed impatient, shifting his weight from foot to foot as he waited for the signal to begin. Norris, on the other hand, remained perfectly still, his hands relaxed at his sides. When the bell rang, signaling the start of the match, Wei wasted no time. He launched forward with blistering speed, throwing a series of rapid jabs and kicks designed to catch Norris off guard. The crowd gasped as Wei's strikes came within inches of connecting, his ferocity undeniable. But Norris, true to form, remained composed. With minimal effort, he sidestepped Wei's attacks, using subtle shifts in position to evade danger. Each time Wei lunged, Norris slipped away like water flowing around a rock, conserving his energy while studying his opponent's patterns. It didn't take long for Wei to realize that Norris wasn't going to crumble under pressure. Frustration began creeping into his expression as his initial flurry of attacks failed to land. Determined to break through, Wei doubled down, increasing the intensity of his assault. He spun, kicked, and feinted with everything he had, desperate to find an opening. But Norris's defense was impenetrable. Every punch was parried, every kick dodged, every feint anticipated. It was as if Norris could see Wei's moves before he made them. By the end of the first round, Wei was visibly winded, his earlier bravado giving way to uncertainty. Norris, meanwhile, looked almost untouched, his breathing steady and his posture relaxed. As the two fighters returned to their corners, the crowd murmured in awe. What had seemed like a mismatch on paper was turning into something far more intriguing, a masterclass in patience versus passion, experience versus ambition. Back in his corner, Wei listened intently as his trainer urged him to stay calm and strategic. "Don't rush," the trainer said. "Focus on setting him up. Use your speed wisely." Wei nodded, wiping sweat from his brow and resolving to adjust his tactics. Across the ring, Norris sat quietly, closing his eyes for a brief moment of meditation. When the bell rang again, signaling the start of the second round, both fighters rose with renewed determination, but the outcome was far from decided. As the second round began, Wei Liang came out with a renewed sense of purpose. He had learned from the first round that brute force alone wouldn't work against Norris. His speed and aggression needed precision to match. With his trainer's advice echoing in his ears, Wei slowed his pace slightly, focusing on setting traps rather than launching wild attacks. He feinted left, then right, trying to bait Norris into making a mistake. The crowd watched intently, sensing the shift in strategy. Norris, however, remained unfazed. Decades of experience had taught him how to read opponents like an open book. Every twitch of Wei's muscles, every flicker of movement in his eyes, told Norris exactly what was coming next. Instead of reacting impulsively, Norris waited patiently, letting Wei overextend himself. When Wei finally lunged forward with a spinning back kick, a move designed to catch Norris off guard, Norris simply stepped aside at the last moment, leaving Wei stumbling past him. The arena erupted in gasps as Norris capitalized on Wei's misstep, delivering a quick but controlled strike to Wei's side. It wasn't a knockout blow by any means, but it sent a clear message. Norris was still in complete control. Wei staggered back, clutching his ribs, his face a mixture of shock and frustration. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Was Norris really this good, or was he just playing with him? Wei shook off the hit and tried again, this time mixing up his combinations. He threw low kicks, followed by high punches, attempting to keep Norris guessing. But no matter what he did, Norris seemed 2 steps ahead. Each time Wei thought he had found an opening, Norris would slip away or deflect the attack effortlessly. Wei's frustration grew, and with it came fatigue. His movements became less sharp, his breathing heavier. Norris, on the other hand, looked as calm and composed as ever, conserving his energy while maintaining relentless focus. By the middle of the second round, the dynamic between the two fighters had shifted dramatically. Wei was no longer the cocky, young star dominating the ring. He was now fighting for survival, struggling to keep up with Norris's calculated rhythm. The audience could see it too. Their cheers turned to murmurs of disbelief as they realized just how skilled Norris truly was. Some fans even started chanting Norris's name, their admiration growing with each passing minute. In the third round, Wei made one final push, determined not to let the match slip away without giving everything he had. He abandoned all subtlety, throwing caution to the wind and unleashing a barrage of powerful strikes. His kicks whistled through the air, his punches snapped with raw power, and for a brief moment, it seemed like he might overwhelm Norris. But Norris's defense held firm. He absorbed the pressure with minimal effort, using his superior timing to neutralize Wei's attacks. Every time Wei closed the distance, Norris created space. Every time Wei tried to corner him, Norris slipped away. Then, with perfect timing, Norris struck back. As Wei lunged forward with another high kick, Norris ducked beneath it and delivered a precise reverse punch to Wei's midsection. The impact wasn't devastating, but it was enough to send Wei reeling backward. Norris followed up with a swift leg sweep, knocking Wei off balance and sending him crashing to the mat. The crowd went wild, erupting into cheers and applause as Norris stood tall, his expression calm and unbothered. For Wei, lying there on the ground, the realization hit hard. This wasn't just a loss, it was a lesson. All the talk, all the arrogance, all the assumptions he had made about Norris being slow or outdated were crumbling around him. Norris wasn't just winning the fight. He was dismantling Wei's entire approach to martial arts. It wasn't about speed or strength. It was about discipline, patience, and respect for the craft. When the referee helped Wei to his feet, the younger fighter looked visibly shaken. Sweat poured down his face and his chest heaved as he struggled to catch his breath. Norris extended a hand toward him, offering a gesture of sportsmanship. After a brief pause, Wei accepted it, shaking Norris's hand firmly. There was no animosity in Norris's eyes, only understanding. He leaned in close and whispered something only Wei could hear. Martial arts isn't just about winning, it's about learning. The remaining rounds played out almost anticlimactically. Wei continued to fight, but his earlier confidence was gone. He threw fewer attacks, focusing instead on surviving until the final bell. Norris, ever the gentleman, didn't press his advantage unnecessarily. He allowed Wei to regain some composure, demonstrating restraint and grace even in victory. By the time the match ended, the outcome was undeniable. Norris had proven himself not just as a legendary fighter, but as a master of his art. Afterward, as both men stood in the center of the ring for the official announcement, the atmosphere was electric. The referee raised Norris's arm in triumph, and the crowd roared its approval. Norris bowed deeply to Wei, acknowledging his courage and tenacity despite the loss. Wei, humbled by the experience, returned the bow with genuine respect. For the first time since the challenge began, Wei felt gratitude, not resentment, toward Norris. He realized that this match wasn't just about proving who was stronger, it was about growth. Backstage, reporters swarmed both fighters, eager to capture their reactions. Wei admitted openly that he had underestimated Norris and vowed to train harder, promising to honor the traditions Norris represented. Norris, ever humble, praised Wei's talent and encouraged him to keep pushing forward. "He has potential," Norris said during a post-match interview. "I hope he takes this as a chance to grow, not just as a fighter but as a person." As the night drew to a close, the legacy of the exhibition match lingered in the minds of everyone who witnessed it. Fans debated endlessly about the technical aspects of the fight, but what resonated most was the deeper meaning behind it. Norris hadn't just defeated Wei, he had reminded the world why martial arts mattered. Respect, humility, and discipline weren't outdated concepts. They were timeless principles that transcended generations. For Wei, the journey was far from over. The match had exposed his weaknesses, yes, but it had also given him a roadmap for improvement. He returned to Shanghai with a newfound appreciation for the art form he loved, vowing to train smarter and embrace the lessons Norris had imparted. And for Norris, the exhibition served as a reminder of his enduring influence. Even in retirement, he continued to inspire others, bridging the gap between past and present, tradition and innovation. Though their paths diverged after the match, the bond forged in the ring remained. Wei often reflected on those moments in the days and weeks that followed, replaying Norris's words in his mind. Martial arts isn't just about winning, it's about learning. Those simple yet profound words stayed with him, guiding him as he worked to become not just a better fighter but a better version of himself. In the days following the exhibition match, Wei Liang found himself unable to escape the weight of what had happened. The fight wasn't just a physical contest, it was an emotional reckoning that forced him to confront his own arrogance and assumptions. As he sat alone in his apartment, replaying the match in his mind, Wei couldn't shake the feeling that he had been humbled not by Norris's fists but by his philosophy. Every move Norris made during the fight seemed deliberate, measured, and rooted in something deeper than mere technique. It wasn't just martial arts, it was a way of life. Wei's social media accounts, once filled with brash comments and self-promotion, went silent for nearly a week after the match. Fans noticed the sudden absence and began speculating about what it meant. Was Wei embarrassed? Had he given up? Or was he plotting a comeback? In reality, Wei was doing none of those things. Instead, he was reflecting. Something he hadn't done much of before. He scrolled through old posts where he mocked Norris and cringed at how immature he sounded. For the first time, he saw himself as others must have seen him, cocky, disrespectful, and dismissive of the very traditions that had shaped him as a fighter. Determined to make amends, Wei decided to issue a public apology, not just to Norris, but to everyone who had followed his journey. Sitting in front of a camera, he recorded a heartfelt message addressed directly to his fans. "I want to start by saying I was wrong," he began, his voice steady, but tinged with regret. "I mocked Chuck Norris because I thought I knew better. I thought modern fighters like me were superior to the legends of the past. But after stepping into the ring with him, I realized how little I actually understood about martial arts." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "Chuck didn't just beat me physically, he showed me what it means to truly respect this art form. Martial arts isn't about being faster or stronger than someone else. It's about discipline, patience, and humility. I let my ego get in the way and I lost sight of that. So to Chuck, I owe you an apology. You taught me a lesson I'll never forget, and I hope one day I can live up to the standards you set." The video went viral almost instantly, racking up millions of views within hours. Fans praised Wei for owning up to his mistakes, while critics admitted they had underestimated his ability to grow. Even Norris himself responded, posting a simple message on his official page. "Apologies take courage, and growth takes effort. I'm proud of you, Wei. Keep learning." Those words meant more to Wei than any trophy or title ever could. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that Norris saw potential in him despite their differences. Inspired by Norris's teachings, Wei threw himself into training with a newfound mindset. Gone were the flashy combinations and reckless attacks that had defined his earlier style. Instead, he focused on mastering the basics, the same fundamentals Norris had emphasized throughout his career. He spent hours perfecting stances, refining his breathing and practicing controlled movements. His trainer noticed the change immediately. "You're different now," the trainer remarked one afternoon. "What happened?" Wei smiled faintly, remembering Norris's advice. "I've realized that martial arts isn't just about beating your opponent. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. And I've got a long way to go." Word of Wei's transformation spread quickly, earning him newfound respect among peers and mentors alike. Fighters who had once dismissed him as arrogant reached out to offer guidance, sharing their own experiences and philosophies. One of them, a retired karate master named Lin Tao, became a close mentor to Wei. Lin introduced him to traditional forms of martial arts that Wei had previously overlooked, teaching him the importance of balance, focus, and mental clarity. Under Lin's tutelage, Wei discovered a depth to martial arts he had never known existed. Meanwhile, Norris returned to his ranch in Texas, content in the knowledge that he had made a difference. Though he rarely sought recognition, he couldn't deny the impact the exhibition match had on people around the world. Social media buzzed with stories of young fighters, inspired to train harder and embrace the values Norris embodied. Parents shared videos of their children practicing kata in honor of the legend who reminded us all why martial arts matter. Even Hollywood took notice, with producers approaching Norris about creating a documentary exploring his legacy and influence. Despite the attention, Norris remained humble, deflecting praise whenever possible. During interviews, he often redirected the conversation back to Wei, emphasizing the younger fighter's potential. "Wei has heart," Norris said during one appearance. "He may have started off on the wrong foot, but he's willing to learn. That's what makes a true martial artist, not perfection, but progress." As weeks turned into months, Wei continued to evolve both inside and outside the dojo. He began incorporating mindfulness practices into his daily routine, meditating each morning to center himself before training. He also started volunteering at local community centers, teaching martial arts to underprivileged youth. For Wei, it was a chance to give back and share the lessons he had learned. Watching kids light up as they mastered a new technique reminded him of why he fell in love with martial arts in the first place. One day, while scrolling through social media, Wei stumbled upon a fan-made montage comparing his pre-match bravado to his post-match humility. The video ended with a quote attributed to Norris. "A true warrior doesn't fight to destroy others. He fights to build himself." Wei stared at the screen for a long moment, letting the words sink in. They summed up everything he had come to understand since the exhibition. A fighter's greatest opponent isn't another person. It's their own ego. By the 6-month mark, Wei's transformation was undeniable. He competed in several regional tournaments, winning not through sheer aggression but through strategy and precision. Judges praised his improved technique, noting how much calmer and more composed he appeared in the ring. Spectators marveled at his newfound maturity, cheering louder than ever before. Yet, despite his success, Wei no longer cared about titles or accolades. What mattered most to him now was honoring the spirit of martial arts and inspiring others to do the same. Around the same time, Norris received an unexpected letter from Wei. Inside was a handwritten note expressing gratitude for the lessons Norris had imparted. "You didn't just teach me how to fight," Wei wrote. "You taught me how to live. Thank you for showing me the path forward when I was lost." Enclosed with the letter was a photograph of Wei teaching a group of children at a community center, their faces glowing with excitement as they practiced alongside him. Norris smiled as he read the letter, touched by Wei's sincerity. He pinned the photo to the wall of his study next to other mementos from his career. To him, it symbolized the ripple effect of kindness and wisdom. One person's actions could inspire countless others to grow and change for the better. Though their lives remained separate, Wei and Norris stayed connected through occasional messages and updates. Wei often sent Norris videos of his training sessions, seeking feedback and advice. Norris, in turn, offered encouragement, reminding Wei to stay grounded and focused on the bigger picture. Their relationship had evolved from adversaries to allies, united by a shared passion for martial arts and its timeless principles. Reflecting on the journey, Wei realized that losing to Norris had been the best thing that could have happened to him. It forced him to confront his flaws and strive for something greater than personal glory. For Norris, the exhibition match served as a reminder of his enduring legacy, not as a champion, but as a teacher. Together they had bridged generations, proving that martial arts transcended age, culture, and ego. And so, the story of Wei Liang and Chuck Norris became more than just a tale of competition. It was a testament to the power of humility, respect, and growth, a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories are the ones we win over ourselves. Years passed, and the legacy of the exhibition match between Wei Liang and Chuck Norris continued to resonate far beyond the confines of the martial arts world. What had started as a clash of egos transformed into a story of redemption, respect, and mutual growth, a narrative that inspired countless individuals across generations. For Wei, the lessons he learned in that ring became the foundation for not only his career but also his life. And for Norris, the match reinforced his belief that martial arts was more than just physical skill. It was a lifelong journey of self-discovery. Wei's transformation didn't stop with mastering new techniques or adopting a humbler attitude. Over time, he emerged as a leader in the martial arts community, using his platform to promote values like discipline, respect, and perseverance. He began organizing workshops and seminars, inviting both seasoned fighters and beginners to explore the deeper meaning behind their craft. His speeches often included anecdotes about his encounter with Norris, emphasizing how losing can sometimes be the greatest teacher. That match taught me that martial arts isn't about proving you're better than someone else, Wei would say during these events. It's about becoming the best version of yourself and respecting everyone who walks the same path. One of Wei's most impactful initiatives was creating a mentorship program for young martial artists. Inspired by Lin Tao's guidance, he wanted to ensure that others wouldn't have to learn hard lessons the way he did. The program paired aspiring fighters with experienced mentors who emphasized not just technique, but also character development. Many participants credited Wei with helping them see martial arts as a tool for personal growth, rather than just competition. One teenage participant named May once said in an interview, "Before I met Wei, I thought martial arts was all about winning trophies. Now I understand it's about building strength, not just in your body, but in your heart." Meanwhile, Norris remained a quiet yet influential figure in the background, continuing to inspire through his actions. Though he no longer competed, he stayed deeply involved in the martial arts community, mentoring young fighters and supporting charitable causes. His ranch in Texas became a gathering place for students eager to learn from the legend himself. Norris welcomed them with open arms, sharing stories from his own journey and reminding them that true mastery came from patience and humility. "Every punch you throw should honor those who came before you," he often told his students, "and every step forward should pave the way for those who come after." The bond between Wei and Norris grew stronger over the years. Even though they lived thousands of miles apart, they exchanged letters and videos regularly, discussing everything from training methods to life philosophies. On one occasion, Norris invited Wei to visit his ranch, an offer Wei eagerly accepted. When they finally reunited, the atmosphere was warm and familiar, as if no time had passed at all. Norris showed Wei around the property, introducing him to his family and friends. In return, Wei shared updates about his mentorship program and the positive changes it had brought to the martial arts community. During their conversations, Norris revealed something profound. "You know, Wei, I've always believed that martial arts is cyclical. Every generation builds on the last, adding its own chapter to the story. But the core principles, respect, discipline, and humility, they never change." Wei nodded thoughtfully, realizing how much Norris's words mirrored his own experiences. Together they spent hours practicing kata side by side, blending traditional forms with modern techniques. It was a symbolic gesture, representing the unity of past and present. As news of their collaboration spread, fans clamored for another exhibition match, a rematch between Wei and Norris. Both men laughed off the idea, agreeing that such a spectacle wasn't necessary. "We've already fought," Norris quipped during an interview. "Now we're teammates." Instead of stepping back into the ring, they chose to focus on projects that celebrated the essence of martial arts. One such project was a documentary titled Legacy of Respect, which chronicled their journey from adversaries to allies. The film featured interviews with notable figures in the martial arts world, archival footage of Norris's early career, and glimpses of Wei's work with young fighters. Upon its release, the documentary received widespread acclaim, further solidifying their impact on the global stage. In addition to the documentary, Wei and Norris co-authored a book called The Art of Growth, detailing their individual paths and the lessons they'd learned along the way. Each chapter alternated between their perspectives, offering readers a unique glimpse into their thoughts and experiences. The book quickly became a bestseller, praised for its authenticity and wisdom. Critics noted how seamlessly the two voices blended, reflecting the deep connection they had forged through their shared passion. Despite their achievements, neither Wei nor Norris sought fame or fortune. Their goal was simple: to leave the martial arts world better than they found it. For Wei, this meant continuing to mentor young fighters and advocate for the preservation of traditional practices. For Norris, it meant passing down his knowledge to future generations while staying true to the values that defined him. Together, they embodied the spirit of martial arts, not as competitors but as stewards of a timeless tradition. On the 5th anniversary of the exhibition match, Wei organized a special event in Hong Kong to celebrate its lasting impact. Fighters from around the globe gathered to honor both men, participating in demonstrations, panel discussions, and friendly sparring sessions. At the center of it all stood Wei and Norris, side by side, addressing the crowd with gratitude and humility. "5 years ago, I stepped into the ring thinking I knew everything," Wei said, his voice filled with emotion. "But thanks to Chuck, I discovered what it truly means to be a martial artist. Today we stand here not as rivals, but as brothers, united by our love for this art." Norris followed with a few words of his own, his tone calm yet powerful. "Martial arts has given me so much throughout my life. Strength, purpose, and friendships I'll cherish forever. Seeing how far Wei has come reminds me why I dedicated myself to this path in the first place. It's not about titles or trophies. It's about making a difference, one person at a time." The event concluded with a group kata performance, led by Wei and Norris. As they moved in unison, their synchronized movements spoke volumes about the harmony they had achieved, not just in martial arts but in life. The audience erupted into applause, many wiping away tears as they witnessed the culmination of years of growth and collaboration. Looking back, Wei often reflected on how differently things might have turned out if he hadn't accepted Norris's challenge. That single decision had set him on a path of self-improvement, teaching him the importance of humility and respect. Similarly, Norris viewed the match as one of the most meaningful moments of his later years, proof that even at an advanced age, he could still inspire others to embrace the true spirit of martial arts. Their story became a beacon of hope for anyone facing adversity or struggling to find their place in the world. It reminded people that failure wasn't the end. It was an opportunity to grow. That arrogance could give way to humility. That enemies could become allies. And that the lessons learned in the ring extended far beyond its boundaries. Decades later, when asked about the exhibition match, Wei smiled warmly, recalling every detail. "I lost the fight," he would say, "but I gained so much more. I gained a mentor, a friend, and a purpose. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't change a thing." Norris, too, cherished the memory, often saying, "Sometimes the greatest victories aren't the ones we win for ourselves. They're the ones we help others achieve." And so the tale of Wei Liang and Chuck Norris endured, a testament to the power of respect, resilience, and redemption. Through their journey, they proved that martial arts wasn't just about punches and kicks. It was about shaping lives, bridging divides, and leaving a legacy that would inspire generations to come.